Hello, everybody. Happy December 18th. And this is Mondays with Megs, mostly Mondays with Megs. This will be my last podcast for a few weeks. Um, in next year, I'll probably be rebranding this, so I'm not sure when I'm going to start back up again. So I believe this is like episode number 15 or 16, so you can go back and watch some of the other episodes if you just found this and you want more. But know that there will be more next year. It just may be different. Because, we're always changing. That's how it is. So today, and why should you listen to me? I don't know. Why should you listen to anybody? Because you have a sense to, because it feels right to you. And for those of you who like data, I have been a transformational coach for 29 years. So I have worked with tens of thousands of people, done tens of thousands of events all over the world, one-on-one coaching, online coaching. And I have been a student of alchemy my whole life and beyond. So you want to know more about that? I just did a post on my Facebook page about that. So let's get into the topic of today. I'm talking about everybody's favorite topic, fear. Now that is an odd topic to end this podcast series with, especially at the coming to the end of the year and into the next. But the truth is that this is the biggest reason that um, that most people don't have the lives that they want. Now, having said that, like you guys probably been, those of you who've been following me, like, but Megan, who said not to pay attention to fear? Well, in one way, yes, because fear is mostly made up. Fear is mostly constructed. But the thing about it is that most of what we experience about fear is in our biology. It's in our nervous system. So yes, all the good meaning coaches and philosophers over the years who say, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Well, that's beautiful and it's true. And in the moment where your nervous system has hijacked you, you're in a ball under the covers, that little quippy phrase is not helpful. Why? Because there are, 10 million years of biology that have just taken over and hijacked your corpus callosum, which is the part of your mind that cognitively functions, right? So your willpower, all of that kind of stuff. That part of your brain, the conscious part of your brain, has only really been activated and developed in the last 5,000-6,000 years. And so basically this little limbic system brain, this little fight or flight, I affectionately call it the croc, is like been running the show for a really, really long time. So even though we're not running from tigers anymore, and even though really like most of us are not in life and death situations, so there's really not a lot of reason for us to be living in fight or flight, except that every time that you have had an experience where your fight or flight mechanism was activated. Now, that might be a traumatic event. That might just be somebody jumped out and scared you. You know what I mean? Every time it's been activated, if you didn't allow its full circuit, its full cycle through your system, then that adrenaline gets stored in the system. Your nervous system is now more highly activated. Now, if you've been through trauma or chronic trauma, which is trauma over a period of time, right? If that's been the case, then your nervous system is jumpy. It's very highly activated, right? So what's going on here is that our biology has sort of hijacked or taken over our conscious awareness, our conscious knowing. Like, why else would the greater part of the population be more scared of public speaking than death? That's just weird, right? However, if you look at history and if you look at, whether you believe in lifetimes or you just know that We have stuff in our genetic material of being visible as being different got people killed. And maybe if you had lots of lifetimes, maybe it got you killed. So that memory is in our nervous system, and our biology is, its job is to keep us safe. Its job is to keep us alive. And so it doesn't really matter how much lovely mindset work you've done. Even though you might know that fear is a distraction, that it's not real, that it's all the things, that's not helpful in the moment that your nervous system got hijacked, because you cannot access the part of your brain that learned those lovely mindset tools. So fear is not necessarily a mindset issue. It is a nervous system and biology issue. And so most people are doing their work in the wrong areas. Now, it's really helpful to have good frames. See episode, I don't know if it was 10 and 11 or what it was, where I talked about frames are everything, right? So if you see the world from a frame of what's possible, that's going to have, you're going to have less fear triggers than if you see the world as dangerous, right? So mindset has lots to do with it, but what I'm talking about is in the moment of trigger. That's when you have to go to the biology. That's when you have to go beyond psychology into your biology and do things like breathe and move and get your ass out of, help your nervous system out of that situation. So then all of the beautiful tools you've learned in your corpus callosum, in the front of your, not the corpus callosum, that's not the right word, your cognitive mind. What is that called? I just lost it. Oh, well. We're not here to be perfect, right? So anyway, the part of the brain that has cognitive function, right? When you can soothe your nervous system, take yourself out or all the way through the fear cycle, meaning get it out of your body, shake it out. That's why after about 20 minutes after a deer is runs away from its prey and the prey is out of sight, out of mind for 20 minutes, the deer is like shaking, it's pushing off its adrenaline, it's letting it go, right? It's getting all the way through its fear cycle. But with human beings, what we do is we get scared and we suppress. We get scared and we avoid. We get scared, we stop taking risks. We get scared. And what we do is we accumulate adrenaline over decades. And the older we get, the scarier we get. The older we get, the less risks we take. The older, and then all of a sudden we have all of these stress illnesses because the body is just chock full of the dirtiest fuel on the planet called adrenaline. It's like a really nasty diesel fuel, right? And so as human beings, we don't move all the way through our fear cycles. We're taught to buck up. Boys aren't scared, all the messages that we get that don't allow us to fully move through that cycle of energy. So now why am I having this conversation right now? Well, one of the other interesting things about fear is that it is biologically identical to excitement. Okay, it's biologically identical. So we have a lot of confusion between fear and excitement. And the things that we desire, there is excitement about. But if you have logged in many years of storing adrenaline in your system and being afraid of fear itself, because most of us actually will do whatever it takes to not be scared because we don't like that feeling in our body. But what that means is that you also won't let yourself desire, because desire creates excitement, and excitement is associated with fear. So something that I have noticed over the years is that I'll ask a client, what do you want? And a lot of times I don't know. And then I'll ask it again and again and again. Anyway, if they can't figure it out, you know where I go? I go, what scares you? Because so much of our real desires are stored in the fear center, because it's associated with the unknown. It's associated with an elevation that's excitement, right? So what we do is we start avoiding anything that feels like that elevated state. We start avoiding desire. We start avoiding excitement. We start avoiding, and this isn't conscious, by the way. And the funny thing is, I can't even tell you over the years of working with tens of thousands of people, how many people don't know they're afraid. And I say that loosely because it's not a mental thing. It's not like, oh, who I am is afraid of this, but I'm talking about that their nervous system has been activated and that they're going through a fear response. Well, what are the fear responses? Avoiding, um, procrastinating, depression, anxiety, getting busy, checking out, disassociating. Um, if you're watching Netflix all day, right? That's most likely a fear response. You're not a bad person. You're not derelict. You're scared. And that's one of the biggest reasons that people don't know that their nervous systems are activated is because we have all these beautiful labels for ourselves of about how we're not productive enough, we're not motivated enough, we're not blah, 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 right? So when we look into the new year, right? First of all, we come into the new year with a bunch of judgment for all the shit we didn't do because we have misnamed some of our not so successful adventures. We've misnamed that as, oh, I'm just not this kind of person. I'm not a successful kind of person. I'm not motivated. Oh, see, I didn't do that yet again this year. When really what you didn't do is handle your fear. You really didn't handle your nervous system. You didn't get yourself in a safe enough place to step into the unknown. I'm going to say that again. You didn't get yourself in a safe enough place to step into the unknown. Because most people, they come into a new year, whether that's January. I actually don't really come into the new year till about February. Or maybe the new year is your birthday, right? We come into this, there's certain cycles when we go, I'd like something new. I'd like, I'd like to improve. I'd like more out of life. I would like more life, right? But mostly what that means is having a life that's different than the one you're in now, which then immediately activates fear, because one of the deepest fears that we have is the fear of the unknown. Now, I want to repeat this again. It's not your conscious mind that's afraid of the unknown. Mostly in the unconscious mind, we get excited. Oh my gosh, we've got this new vision. We're super excited, right? But the little amygdala is going, whoa, whoa, right? And so one of the reasons why I can't remember what it is. It's like most of the population gives up after 4 days of their New Year's resolutions. And then the rest sort of fall off about 21 days, right? But it's actually not because you're not a good person or that you don't desire change or any of that. It's that your amygdala got a hold of you and you didn't recognize it. And so you couldn't change it. Anything that you're not aware of, you can't change. Anything you don't recognize will run you, right? So what if instead of going to what a failure, bad person, not consistent, all the labels you've procrastination, whatever, all the labels you've given yourself, what if instead of doing that, you actually facilitated your nervous system back into rest, back into calm. And then you could look at the action steps in front of you differently. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, my favorite two ways to do this are breath, and I'm going to teach you a breathing technique at the end of this podcast today, and movement. One of the basic things is that you got to run out your adrenaline. You got to move out your adrenaline. Now, we've got to do that a little bit more intentionally because a lot of people, they use exercising to avoid fear, interestingly enough. So you everything we do can be like a tool, or we could be tricking ourselves, right? So moving with intention, moving with the intention to move through certain cycles of energy, certain cycles of adrenaline. Again, this is this is really about understanding our biology, right? If your nervous system is activated, then your brain is in fight or flight, which means it's in right or wrong, good or bad. And for most of us, where we go to is I am wrong, I am bad. Or we try to push ourselves through the action, which is actually creating more adrenaline a lot of times, right? So we can prove that we're not derelict, but it's the same thing. And in fact, a lot of programs out there that are just like rah rah, just take the action, just take the action. That is useful in the short term, and it's useful in small doses. Okay, there are sometimes you got to get the F off the couch, right? But I find that if you can get up, if you have some support, if you have some loving support, you know how to lovingly support yourself, and you have people in your life that lovingly support you, then maybe they can stand beside you and say, okay, time to get up off the couch. We got this. You got this, right? From a place of encouragement, not from a place of force and push and I better do this or all of that. Now, why is this important? Because your willpower, you're actually only born with so much willpower. Like it is, in Chinese medicine, they call it Zhang energy. There's Qi and there's, I think it's called Zhang. My words have escaped me today, right? But Qi is infinite. You can always access universal energy. You can always generate more energy in your body. But willpower comes from this other place. And it is a limited fuel. There's only so much of it. When it's gone, it's gone. So if you overuse willpower in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, chances are you don't have very much. Some of you may be hitting 50, 60 years old, whatever. And it's like, you can't make yourself do the shit you don't want to do no matter what. Now, that partially is the accumulation of adrenaline, but that's also because you may have overused your willpower. So just forcing yourself into things, like a boot camp sergeant, that only lasts for short periods of time. And when it's gone, it's gone. When you lose, is it Xing? Maybe it's Xing. Anyway, maybe somebody listening to this knows. So if you're truly going to open up to your desires, you've got to stop judging yourself. You've got to bring some love in and understand, how much of this is my nervous system? And the thing is that you're not a victim of it, okay? Like you may have been a victim of trauma at some point, okay? But as adults, your job is to go, okay, what's happening here? What's required? What do I need to move forward? What does my body need? Like you now have choice to change it, but first you have to be aware that that's what's going on, that you just got hijacked, right? And what kind of breath or movement can help calm that system down so that you can actually see what your choices are. Because if you're in the right or wrong place, you can't see the possibilities. You can't see how you might outcreate the situation that's in front of you. So a lot of me, have hidden desires underneath fears. We say, oh, I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of public speaking. I'm afraid I did that. And I actually really freaking love public speaking. I love doing live events, but I hid under the fear of public speaking for a long time. Why? Because it was a desire and fear connected together. Okay. So one of the assignments that I like to give my clients is to write down a list of what is it that you're afraid of, right? Like 3 to 5, 10 things. And I want you to look through it and go, well, one of these might be secretly a desire, right? And that can help you sort of spot desires. Now, I'm going to give you a couple tools, but first I want to talk to you about a program that I have coming up called the Magician's Roundtable. And it's all about actualizing your potency and your magic and creating what you came here to create. There's going to be a very strong emphasis on tools to heal your nervous system, because if your internal container isn't strong, if you are being compassionate with yourself, if you're coming from proving rather than a rested state, if you're coming from judgment rather than love, then your magic is getting run through like a faulty container. And so what will happen is you'll have mixed results. You'll have some successes, but then you won't be able to sustain them. And a lot of people who like to play in universal principles, they're magical in nature. A lot of their magic was activated in trauma. And so there's a lot of magical people that have trauma that, because they understand conceptually that fear isn't real on a certain level, right? There's nothing to be afraid of, that they actually haven't addressed the nervous system issues that I've been talking about, the biology issues that I've been talking about. So they end up sort of, I would say, disassociated or disconnected from what it actually really takes to utilize their magic and be what they came here to be in the world. So it is a limited, I'm starting at the end of January. It's a limited number of people. It's by invitation or referral only. If you're watching this and you're interested in it, I haven't even done the landing page yet. I'm still in the incubation stage with creating it. Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. It will be by an interview process, because I want people that are really, really ready to change, to do the things they haven't been able to do, to get to the things they haven't been able to get to before, and to use the support of a conscious community to do that. Because remember what I said is, like, there are different ways to address fear. One of them is having people in your life that lovingly say, come on, let's do this. Let's go. You've got this. You can do this, right? So if you're interested in that, give me a ringy ding. Either message me on Facebook, or you can go to megansilito.com and email me. My email is in that. I think my email's on Facebook too. But if you don't change your relationship to your biology, not much will actually change, right? One of the things I've been playing with recently is noticing when I wanted to take a particular action and I didn't take it. And instead of going to judgment, I go to breath. Because what I know is that my nervous system got activated. It's not up to me to determine whether it should or shouldn't have been activated. It's activated. If you're not lining up, doing what you know to do, coming from creativity, coming from joy, not coming from force, not coming from push. Like, this program is also for recovering pushers, right? You want to learn to create with and from your magic. You've got to address your biology. Otherwise, you're not going to change very many things. So, okay. So, the breath. Basically, the simple version of breath, there's 1,000 different kinds of breath work out there. Most of what people understand as breath work is an upregulation breath work, the holotropic breath work, where you go and you breathe really hard for an hour and you have these altered experiences, and it's kind of like having a medicine journey or something like that. If you're going to be regulating your nervous system, you have to do the opposite of that, which is down regulation breath. So a lot of yogic breaths are up regulation, right? They're giving you energy, they're charging you up. That's really great. They're good for what they're good for. But for what I'm talking about, you have to do breath work that is down regulating, which actually calms your nervous system. And this particular breath that I'm going to teach you shifts you from the parasympathetic to the sympathetic system. So it takes you from fight or flight to that calmer state, right? Where you can access whole brain thinking again, which is great. Now, if the technique I'm about to teach you doesn't make sense, okay, the short of it is you just need to breathe in and out your nose, deep breaths all the way down to your belly, meaning pushing your belly out for about 3 minutes, and that will shift your nervous system. The reason that I'm teaching this breath is because it actually includes a movement, and that movement actually helps you breathe correctly. Because when we're in fight or flight, sometimes we can't get those deep breaths in, right? So if you do this movement, your body will calm down. So this breath is, I believe it's now called the yes breath, but it used to be called live stream breathing, which I like that title better because it's basically how we got nutrients in the womb, because we didn't breathe in the womb, but it was through the rocking that we stimulated the umbilical cord and got nutrients into our body. So this breath actually takes your nervous system all the way back to the beginning, and it begins to calm and gentle it. So basically all you're going to do is you're going to arch your back really, really slowly and breathe in as you do that arch, and you breathe out and roll your back forward, and you just kind of drop. Your shoulders should be totally relaxed through this breath, throughout this breath, and you want to do it for about 3 minutes. And my invitation is to do it every day. Those of you who know you have a lot of fear in your history or a lot of trauma in your history, it takes time to reset your nervous system. And there's lots of tools. Actually, there's a lot of really cool stuff on Instagram these days around resetting your vagus nerve. Because one of the things I forgot to mention this, a lot of times people don't recognize fear because it's showing up differently. We've been taught it's fight or flight, which is the activated part, the active part of the vagal nerve. Okay. But there's another strain, which is deactivation. It's the freeze or fawn, or I call freeze and please, right? That this stops you. So inaction comes from that part of your vagal nerve is activated, right? Those of you who get busy, who go faster, right? Who tend to create conflict, you're actually in the fight or flight, the traditional fight or flight mode. So there's up regulation and down regulation even in the nervous system. So what we're trying to do in this is we're trying to get the nervous system back on track. So I would actually really, really, really challenge you guys to do this breath every day. It's 3 minutes. Do it at the beginning of your meditation or something, right? And it's going to help you reset your nervous system. It's also really good for your spine and your lower back. Has a lot of benefits. By the way, I want to acknowledge Gay Hendricks for this. I haven't done that yet. This is where I learned this breathing technique from in a breath and movement school that I did about 15 years ago. And it's still relevant today. It's still very relevant. And it's amazing to me actually how many breathwork practitioners don't even know about up regulation, down regulation. They're just doing the transformational breath, which is very, very different and very, very good for what it does. But if you're running a lot of fear, if you're not creating the life that you want, chances are your nervous system is the culprit and you need to calm it the hell down. Now, the other thing is if you're doing this every single day, when you get stressed, you're going to think to do this. If you don't do this and then you get stressed out in like a week, you're not going to remember this podcast. If you practice it, then it's going to be top of mind. And you're like, oh yeah, I have that tool. Okay. Now, one of my new favorites, if I'm so triggered, meaning that I'm in such a freeze response, because I'm a freezer. I'm a freeze fleer. I'm a freeze please fleer. By the way, you don't have a vote about what F you are. There's fight, flight, freeze, and please, or fawn. And your system created your response based on what it felt like was the most helpful. Like the deer freeze flee, right? It stops so maybe it can't be seen, right? And then it runs, right? A lion fight, right? It's got the tools to fight. So that's what it does, right? And in nature, different fear responses are required to get us through certain situations. And as little kids, our bodies did the thing that would be the most helpful. So for some of you, me included, I learned to hide. I learned to hide in the face of like a violent environment. If I wasn't seen, I wouldn't get hit. if that makes sense. So it's like, I learned to hide. So gosh, guess what happens when I get scared? I'm not as visible. I don't put my work out as much. I don't. This is huge for those of you solopreneurs out there, that your system is doing exactly what it always does when it's scared. Okay. So understanding, like, oh, I'm a fight fleer is really useful, because when it shows up, then you're like, oh, I'm in my, I'm in the fear response. I can do this breath. The other thing that I love to do, because when I freeze, it's really hard to breathe. So what I do is I do this process I learned in Qigong. By the way, Qigong is one of those things that resets your nervous system. Um, some forms of yoga do. A lot of Western yoga has been westernized to be like, get us strong and get us fit, and it actually doesn't do the same thing. But things like Kundalini yoga and the more holistic forms of yoga, super, super good for the nervous system. So one of the things I do is I stand up and I shake, because when a little kid's scared, they do this, right? Ma. Well, what is that doing? That's shaking the energy out. That's shaking the fear out, right? So what I do, I'll kind of show you how I do it. We can is just like this. You just tap on your heels, and do this. Doing that for about 3 minutes will move the energy out of the nervous system. So the breath work calms the nervous system down. This actually moves the fear out. It actually allows it to go through its cycle, right? I actually have a fear practice right now that I do different things to move the accumulated fear from my body, okay? And then let's say you got a lot of it, you can reach up and toss it out, reach up, toss it out. Because when your arms and legs are moving, it releases adrenaline. That's why when the deer runs, it moves its adrenaline out of its body. How cool is that? So those are my two tools for you. I've got dozens and dozens. Being ADHD, I like to have a lot of variety of things that I can use, but those are my go-to tools. Those are my go-to tools: the breath for the reset and the movement for getting it out. And I said earlier that sometimes people can exercise to avoid fear. And that's actually, exercising is probably better than, Netflixing or, holing up in your bedroom or whatever, right? Around fear. But just add some intention to your next workout. Like, okay, anything that's in my body that's stopping me, right? This workout is dedicated. You set an intention, right? Energy flows where the mind goes. Okay, so you can use your mind, as the alchemist it is, to direct the energy of moving it out of your body instead of avoiding it. Now, some of you, the whole reason you're not exercising in the first place is because it would jostle up fear. And you're beating yourself up for that. So there's some things you can do to get your body ready to move again, so that your body's not so scared of pushing that adrenaline up through the system. So much of what you really want and what you really desire, there is somewhere in your biology it's connected to fear. So you don't let yourself have it. You don't let yourself go there. And I just think it's time to really look at what's happening. I'm not a fear expert. I'm not a fear scientist, but I have worked with tens of thousands of people, and I have never, ever seen people saying, there's no need to be afraid, work. Not once. 10,000 people. Breathing, moving, getting yourself to a place where your brain is calm enough that you can see, oh, okay, I'm okay. And even if I'm not, I have choices about how to get okay, right? And it's important to get to the more resourceful state. If you're not in a resourceful state, you're not going to do very healthy things. If you get in a resourceful state, you will see a path through. You can track a way through way, way easier. So in preparation for this next year, I invite you, if you're in judgment about the year or what you did or didn't accomplish, like, give yourself some breath, give yourself some love. And it's like, okay, maybe there's some things that I'm not considering here. And instead of and maybe it's time to consider them instead of beat myself up. And as you come into this next year, I highly, highly recommend you doing some work around understanding your biology, understanding the vagus nerve. You know, do a program like I'm doing where you get support to reset that nervous system. Every call I'm going to do, we're going to do a different nervous system reset. We're going to get you into a restful state so that you can actually create from the space of curiosity, of creativity, of childlike wonder, instead of forcing and pushing yourself. So, whatever tools you choose, I invite you to be kinder and gentler with you. I invite you to heal your nervous systems and know that as you do, you will start to move forward in ways that you can't imagine right now. And it's all perfect. It's just time to heal, boys and girls. So, with that said, I will see you next year. I don't know when I'm coming back next year. Like I said, I'm going to be developing a new podcast, or could be this one, but just with a different face. And I'll let you know when that's coming out. In the meantime, I will be online. Reach out and connect with me about if you have any questions about this, or just post on whatever forum you're listening to this on, because I read the comments and I'll answer your questions. Have a beautiful holiday season, whatever it is that you celebrate. And if you don't celebrate anything, just how about celebrate life? Celebrate you. You got this. All right. Bye for now, guys.